Governments across the country have inserted themselves into people's lives with actions such as taxing soda and taxing or even banning plastic bags. But those efforts have suffered some recent setbacks. Joining us to discuss the latest developments is Patrick Gleason, Director of State Affairs for the group Americans for Tax Reform. Welcome back to the program, Patrick.
So great to be back, Mitch.
Working for a group called Americans for Tax Reform, it has to be frustrating when you see governments across the country targeting things like this, like soda or like plastic bags or other things where it's not a broad-based general tax, but something that's really specific and not really something that helps boost the economy.
Yeah, soda tax is a great example of a type of tax that we would oppose, and it's basically what we'd see, a great example of the antithesis of sound pro-growth tax policy. It's targeted, it discriminates against one industries over the other, and also it's intended to influence behavior. And we think the best approach at Americans for Tax Reform to tax policy is you want low rates, broad bases, but the tax code is meant to raise the amount of revenue for government. It's not to influence behaviors, and that is what the soda taxes at least have been sold as, but in addition to influencing behavior, oftentimes, in most cases with soda taxes, the ultimate impetus behind these is really a cash grab to raise revenue. And so we've seen an uptick in that. Actually, that's an area where ATR it typically focuses on. We work at the federal level, working on tax reform at the state level and state capitals across the country. But soda tax is an example of an issue that's really caused us to focus more and more over the years at the local and municipal level, because as state legislatures have been taken over by more taxpayer-friendly compositions, more taxpayer-friendly majorities, a lot of the bad ideas have started to be pushed down to the local level. So we've seen this in a lot of big cities, and soda taxes have been popping up in a lot of places lately.
You mentioned big cities. This was something that was really championed by former New York City Mayor Michael Bloomberg and really took off after he made it one of his causes. But you also saw some recent good news on this front, didn't you?
Yeah, so surprisingly good news on this front. After losing some battles in recent years, seeing the imposition of a soda tax in Philadelphia last year, a number of cities in the Bay Area, Berkeley, San Francisco, and a few other Bay Area cities, and then Boulder, Colorado. This year, the tide has turned a bit on the soda tax war and the soda tax debate. And this week was really good news, surprising good news from Cook County, Illinois, which is the home of Chicago. And Cook County, Cook County Commission approved late last year a soda tax, a penny per ounce soda tax, and that went into effect this summer. And it was only in effect for 2 months, and already the backlash against it from the community, from business owners, was so strong that Cook County, you could not find a more tax and spend friendly jurisdiction than Chicago. Cook County, they even backed down this week. The Cook County Commission, by a vote of 15-2, voted to repeal the Cook County soda tax. So that happened this week. Great news. It's off the books, and it'll be off the books in December. And so that was surprising there, and that comes on the heels of a repeal of another soda tax in Wisconsin. It wasn't a soda tax designed like the Cook County and other ones we've seen like Philly, but it was an old relic that had been on the books. If you sell soda, if you're a retailer, you had to pay this special little fee. So they got that. It was an arcane charge that was on the books, but technically a soda tax nonetheless. So that was taken off the books. So two really good bits of news, and this is and Mayor Michael Bloomberg, big proponent. He's been spending his wealth around the country pushing these. He did in Philly, he did in Cook County, and then during the recent repeal effort, which was successful this week, he was spending millions on an ad campaign to fight that. And with the victory in repealing that regressive tax, soda tax in Cook County, I just think it goes to show you, even when the money is on the other side, if you are right on the issue and you have a sound argument, you can win. And so we saw that in Cook County this week, and then that on top of Wisconsin, on top of earlier this year, Santa Fe was they put it on the ballot. This is a left-leaning city that went overwhelmingly for Hillary Clinton in last year's presidential election. They overwhelmingly rejected it in Santa Fe earlier this spring. So Santa Fe, then Cook County, a series of defeats for Michael Bloomberg and the rest of his nanny state soda tax proponent crew.
That is the voice of Patrick Gleason, who is Director of State Affairs for Americans for Tax Reform. Let's switch gears a little bit. Another thing that has attracted attention either through taxation or even banning is the idea of plastic bags, something that anyone who's gone to North Carolina's Outer Banks has known about. You also say there's been some good news on taxes of plastic bags, too.
Yeah, so Plastic bag bans and taxes, that's another issue that we've been working on, fighting against at the state and local level. And it actually is similar to soda taxes, and soda taxes are sold as a way to improve health and combat obesity. And plastic bag bans or taxes either are sold as a way to improve the environment, reduce pollution. Soda taxes do not reduce obesity, they do not improve health, and plastic bag bans and taxes do not improve the environment. They don't reduce litter. So that's a common theme, and as with soda taxes, we've seen in the recent backlash against those and realization that they're just cash grabs and don't improve health. Similarly, on a similar track, we've seen a greater recognition with plastic bag bans and taxes lately, recognizing that these don't improve the environment, they don't reduce litter, they're just cash grabs that make people feel good. And so
the ones who impose them,
the people who impose them, they feel great, they feel very good about themselves. But they hurt, they hurt lower income, like soda taxes. Bag taxes are regressive. Bag bans disproportionately inconvenience lower income households, people who take public transportation, not the people who have a large Audi station wagon full of reusable bags and their life is good bumper sticker on their back of their car. It's easy for them to cope with that, not so much someone taking public transportation. So like we've seen with soda taxes, there has been a tide turning and a backlash against them. So North Carolina recently was the center of that debate, and as you mentioned, the Outer Banks targeted bag ban, the bag prohibition, was repealed smartly by the legislature. This was a relic of the previous regime that used to control the state prior to 2010. And point of fact, the bag ban and bag bans, there's no evidence that they do anything to reduce litter. That was documented with studies in this state, but also, there's been examples from other states. Now, San Francisco was not surprisingly, it was the first jurisdiction to impose a bag ban similar to what eventually came on the books here for the Outer Banks. Thankfully, now it's off the books. But San Francisco, first city to move forward with it, 2007. The year after, we examined litter audits for the year before the bag ban went into effect and the year after, and you will question your career line when you find yourself reading litter audits and pouring through them. But looking at the litter audits before and after, we found that not only did bags, and this is the case nationwide, not only do plastic bags comprise a minuscule share of total litter, but after the year after the ban was in effect, the share of litter that was comprised of bags was actually greater. So if your goal is to get at litter and mitigate litter, bags are not a good target, and they've been shown to be even effective at doing that. So we've seen that. So that's why we think it was good policy. And so, if of all places where you could reuse plastic bags, the beach is one, and that's the thing that the nanny statists who think plastic bags are the scourge of the world. That's the thing they miss, is they call them single-use plastic bags, but that's really incorrect, because plastic bags, by and large, are frequently reused for many things: lining bathroom trash bags, cleaning up after the dog, transporting gym clothes and the like. So they do get reused, and so this was great. It was good policy. I think they overturned this. That comes on the heels of another victory in this same zone, Minneapolis City Council, which is ideologically as far on the opposite side of the spectrum as you can get from the North Carolina General Assembly. Left-leaning Minneapolis City Council, they were considering a bag tax in this case. And like soda taxes are regressive, would disproportionately harm the poor. We were fully expecting that to pass, and this was last month. And then surprisingly, after hearing a lot of pressure from the community, they backed down. It was similar to the arguments we hear, the public backlash we saw to soda taxes in Chicago. In Minneapolis, people said, we don't want this regressive tax. It's going to harm lower-income households disproportionately, and it's not going to improve the environment. So we fully expected that to pass, and we're getting ready to work with the Minnesota legislature to pass preemption legislation next session to undo it. Turns out we won't need to do that right now. Because the Minneapolis City Council backed down and declined to pass a bag tax in a place where you'd expect them to. So these are positive developments. They are turns in the change of course, turns in the tide we've been seeing in these two battles nationwide against nanny state taxes that make people feel good but don't really do much good other than drain the bank accounts of families. So good news all around. With all the bad news going on, or doom and gloomy here in the news nationally, internationally, it's great to hear some good positive developments from around the country.